All right, so today's video, we are talking about habits that keep writers stuck. And I want to be clear that we're talking about habits and not necessarily talent. And this is an important distinction because most writers that I meet aren't stuck because they can't write. They're stuck because of the habits that they have around their writing. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. But first, if you're new here, my name is Halana Black. I've been a traveling writer since 2018. I've lived in 10 countries since then. And right now, I live in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And I want to be able to trade in my beach life to move to San Miguel de Allende in central Mexico, where I get to be able to build the creative home of my dreams there. So that is what I'm building. Um, right now, I want to be able to offer you these tips about your writing habit. So number one of the things that I see in my business when I am working with writers is that they often wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. They sit and wait for inspiration. They treat writing as if they're waiting for the spirit to move them. They need to wait for the mood. They haven't built a practice. That's the point I'm saying. Your writing, if you want to be able to build on or if you want to be able to write on a regular basis, you have to build a writing habit. You have to be able to create a space where you know that however many times a week, for some people, it might be every day. For you, it may be a few times a week, depending on what else it is that you have going on in your life. But you got to be able to create a writing practice and not just, do some writing whenever you feel like it. Um, the motivation for your writing generally follows the action of writing and not generally the other way around. You can't sit and wait for the motivation to come find you. You have to be ready and in the action, in the creative act of doing your writing. And that is when you will start to feel the motivation to follow through once the ideas get rolling. Okay, so stop waiting for motivation. That's the habit number one that you need to break. Habit number two, you keep calling yourself a writer, but you never act like one. That might feel like a punch in the face. But many people will say, oh, I want to be a writer, but they never do the things that writers do, which might include pitching your work. I teach a pitching magazines class. This would be a really wonderful opportunity for you to be able to join us in a small group setting and figure out what it means to be able to pitch magazines. How do you get your byline in magazines like Essence, in Parents Magazine, in Business Insider, and any of the other magazines that you might read on a regular basis that might help you to help your world as an author. Maybe you're a consultant, a coach of some kind, and you want to be able to get your name into more spaces, to be able to build your social proof on your level of expertise, to be able to teach other people, to build your email list, whatever it is that you need to be able to do. If you say that you want to be a writer, you have to do writer things. So pitching magazines is one thing. Submitting your writing to certain spaces um, is part of it. Sharing your writing. You have to have a space where you can share your work with others who can read your writing. Magazines is a great place to be able to do that. So your identity without identifying as a writer without the actual behavior creates this constant longing and frustration um, that makes you feel further and further away from the goal that you said you want to be able to set. So what you need to be able to do is engage in the activities that actually make you a writer, and you'll start to feel better about yourself. Habit number three, bad habit number three. Um, this is another good one. A lot of writers tend to overconsume and they under-create. A lot of writers tend to overconsume and they under-create. So what does that look like? As much as I love a good podcast, as much as I love courses, online courses, um, as much as it feels good to sit and listen to other people's advice, sometimes when you center your day around those things, and a lot of writers will say, well, I'm doing the work, but that you're doing too much of those things and not enough of the creation part. And so, and I understand because in the very early years of my writing business, one of the things that I love to do, there were just certain podcasts that I would listen to. I love to be able to keep them in my ear when I was going back and forth to work on the bus, I was walking. I would put podcasts on, or even while I was at work, I would put my headphones on and listen to what other people have created as a way to be able to motivate myself, to be able to make me feel like I was in community with these other people who were doing what they said they wanted to do. But what it actually was doing to some extent was it was making me feel busy without actually doing the things that actually create progress to towards the goal that I wanted to create. Nothing wrong with listening to podcasts, nothing wrong with buying the courses and hanging out in the courses. Courses is another thing. A lot of people, you like to buy courses and then they just sort of sit on, in your hard drive, your phone, or wherever, and you never actually implement any of the things that you've actually learned. Which is why I was just talking about my Pitching Magazines course. I created it to be a live group program where we actually sit down in a small group and we learn how to be able to pitch magazines together through the actual practice of pitching magazines. I didn't want it to be, where I would just sort of throw up a pre-made digital course, and you can either consume it or not consume it, for a high price. What I wanted was the opportunity to be able to work with a small group of women who were interested in writing, and wanted to be able to work in community to be able to reach their goals. If that is what you want to do, this is a way for you to be able to create rather than just sit back and consume. And listening to endless advice from other people, listening to endless advice from other YouTubers, um, from other podcasts and other things like that. But very little output, very little output. You really need to be able to focus on the way that I like to work anyway, is I like to be able to front load my day with writing at the beginning of the day, right? I front load my day with the writing that I need to get done at the beginning of the day so that when it's done, it's done. And that way, if I have time towards the end of the day to listen to other people's podcasts, um, I have certain times of the week when I'm doing my learning, or I might be engaging in getting advice from other trusted individuals or coaching programs that I might belong to. All that stuff is scheduled, but I front load my day with the things that I need to put out into the world in order for my business to be able to move forward, right? So learning can feel productive, but what it's actually doing is it's sort of keeping you safe. with feeling like, maybe you're afraid of being rejected. Maybe you're afraid of people telling you no, it's not any good. But you've got to learn how to move past those things and get into your active creation, right? So number four, habit number four, you confuse journaling with creating a body of work. Now, hear me out because I love journaling. Journaling is a valuable process. Journaling is a valuable process. I love journaling because it helps me to be able to communicate ideas, thoughts, feelings that I may not have space for in other places in my life. It helps me to make sense out of what it is that I'm thinking and feeling, or I might be moving through. It helps me to find the language to be able to express myself, particularly as an introverted person. I like to be able to think and express via writing first before I actually share it with other people. Um, However, the process of journaling is not necessarily the same as the process of shaping your ideas for your readers. So your ideas for your books, which might be in service to your business, they might be in service to um, any other thing that you want to be able to create, whether you want it to be your business or maybe you're an artist of some kind. Maybe you are some sort of a thought leader, a consultant, maybe you do training with people. But what a body of work actually requires in order to put it out into the world, it requires you to make certain decisions. It requires for you to be able to have forward direction, and it has to be structured. And structure only comes through the creation of following through on a strategy. And so many writers, while the journaling is wonderful for people who are just beginning their writing process, a lot of people choose to stay hidden in their writing practice by just staying in the journaling process instead of moving forward with what it is that they know that they need to be able to create. All right, so habit number five, avoiding rejection at all costs. A lot of writers are afraid of rejection. So what's happening? Not pitching to avoid a no. Um, Putting your work out there requires courage. Putting your work out there in the world for other people to be able to, what you feel like is judgment, it requires courage. And so to avoid that, a lot of writers, they just sort of skip the pitching process and think that there's some other way for them to be able to get their work out into the world. However, not submitting your work um, means that nothing moves. You don't get the opportunity to improve your work. You don't get the opportunity um, to be able to jump at the chance to find new readers, new audiences for your work, to be able to benefit from the opportunity of finding out whether or not there's a different or even a better way to be able to communicate what it is that you want to be able to say because you are afraid of the no. You are afraid of the silence that often comes with pitching your work. Um, so what I want people to understand is that the rejection, the process of pitching and the rejection that you get is never personal. It's never about your talent as a writer. Um, it's really just part of the process. I always say when you pitch a magazine in particular, and I'm talking about pitching magazines because that's what I happen to be teaching at the moment. When you're pitching an editor an idea for their magazine, um, you never really understand the thought process between where they are in their editorial decisions. What you will find is that many magazines, particularly if they're a print magazine, of course, they have meetings where they decide what are some of the focuses of um, the magazine at that particular point in time. So February, if there's a February edition of a magazine, of course, you might see some Valentine's Day stuff, or if there's some other health related thing going on during the month of February, you might see stories that are related to that. And so if your idea doesn't fit into what it is they need in February, March, or April, they might move past your idea. It doesn't mean that your idea doesn't work or that it's not any good or that you personally as a writer are not any good. It just means that maybe your idea doesn't fit into what it is that they have going on at that time. And so that's why it's important to have a process of several magazines that you're always looking in, and trying to see, okay, what is it that this particular magazine can use right now? How can I finagle my pitches, so to speak, to be able to catch the the attention of the editors. And this is an ongoing process, and you only get better with it with practice. Um, and so it's important to be able to put your work out there because when you avoid rejection, you also avoid potential opportunity. So it might feel good to be able to say, I put out a few pitches out there, but nobody responded, or I got some rejections and I don't feel good about it. Um, and so to be able to keep yourself from feeling that sort of a rejection, you don't go through the pitching process or trying to get yourself excited about going through the pitch process the next day. After some rest, you might decide that it's too much to be able to face again the next day. But you got to know it's not about you. So once you get over that feeling of feeling like editors aren't looking at you because it's personal, it never is. All right. So, whew, finally, habit number 6, building your life around what feels safe. Writing only when everything else is done or letting jobs, obligations, and other people's needs take priority. You have to figure out how to be able to organize your life around the thing that you said that you wanted to do. So I understand that people have other jobs that you have to do to be able to afford your life. You might, let's see, you might have children or caretaking responsibilities. You may have some stuff, and you might be building fixing a garage in your house or whatever it is that you got going on. And then you got to take care of your health. You got to cook, food for the family. You got to go grocery shopping. I get it. There's stuff that needs to be done. However, if you really want the life of a writer, you have to do what writers do. And if this were part of your regular job, you would find a way to get it done because you know that if you don't do it, you risk, being fired or being reprimanded or, whatever. But because this is for you, you keep putting it on the back burner um, somewhere. You haven't really created um, you haven't really decided that if you miss this opportunity, that, what are the consequences that you're going to suffer as a result of not following through. You're still living under, um, you're still living under um, thinking that you're putting your job and everything else first because that's what you've decided your priority is. You also treat writing like it's an indulgence instead of a commitment. This is the journaling, um, the journaling mindset, I find, with a lot of people. If you've always treated your writing like it's an indulgence, like something you have to do to deserve at the end of the day, um, then you'll never really get to a point where writing is really the bread and butter of your life. You're treating writing like it's an option. It's not a commitment. And what happens is that this slowly kind of erodes your confidence with writing over time because you haven't decided that you wanted to make it a priority. Um, so you just building your life around what really feels safe. So what actually moves writers forward from what I have used in working with other writers is that there needs to be small, consistent acts of self-selection. Small, consistent acts of self-selection. I just did a video yesterday on how to be able to choose yourself. If you haven't watched that, I would suggest you go back and listen to it. Small, consistent acts of self-selection. You've got to be able to decide that your writing is important, that you taking on the identity of a writer is more important than any other thing that you want to be able to do, right? So you have to choose. Um, you have to choose what are the topics that you want to be able to write on. You have to be able to choose the publications that you want to be able to write on. You get to decide the deadline that you want to be able to send these things in. Are you working on a daily deadline? Are you telling yourself, okay, I'm going to do 2, 3 pitches a day. I'm just going to do 1 pitch a day because that's what I have time for. Or I pitch on these days of the week because that's where it is that I can do it. Either way, you still have to make the decision and choose yourself and stick to it. Um, you also want to pitch your ideas to places that you respect, and in turn, those places respect the type of writer that you are. Sometimes people will spend a lot of time trying to pitch ideas to places where they know that their ideas don't generally fit, and then they're surprised when they don't, when they keep getting rejections. You keep trying to fit yourself into a mold that doesn't make sense. Um, so just like anything else in life, you always hear of people who say, their parents pushed them to be a doctor or a lawyer when really they were meant to be, I don't know, maybe they were meant to be a chef or a sound engineer or something else, something more creative. The same thing can happen with writing. I myself have spent a lot of years writing in the B2B space, business to business. And there were parts of it that I really enjoyed. It's not that that was a bad space for me, but I think I also wanted to be able to do more creative writing, to be able to do more lifestyle type articles for other places. And so while I appreciate what I've learned in the B2B space in writing and learning how to be able to do marketing campaigns for technology companies, after a while, it was just like, my God, I just can't do another one. I just can't do another one. So you have to, and then to be honest, I still do that. I still do that work because it's just part of the work that I do on a regular basis as a freelance writer. Um, but I also have goals to be able to get myself into more of my lifestyle magazines that I want to be able to get into. So I am letting action teach me what it is that I'm capable of, is what I'm trying to say. So. So, a couple of things, final things. Your writing will stagnate when you wait to be chosen. That's number one. Your writing will stagnate when you wait for other people to choose you. Writing grows when you choose yourself. Pitching is a practice of self-agency. When you decide that you want to be able to pitch your ideas to a magazine, to a company, to a program, you are saying, This is, you are declaring to the world that this is the identity that I have chosen, and I am giving you my ideas because my ideas are good and they are worth it. They can take them or leave them. And then, if they say no, if you get rejected or you don't hear anything, you just simply move on to the next one and you keep going until you find a place that fits you. This process of pitching really trains you to stand behind your ideas. Um, so again, if you're feeling stuck in your life as a writing, it's probably has nothing to do with whether or not you are a talented writer or whether or not you are meant to be a writer. It's more about the habits that you have created to be able to have more opportunities to be successful. Um, so yeah, that's what I have for you today. If you would like to be able to learn more about the class that I talked about, it's called Pitching Magazines with Confidence. It starts on February 22nd, 2026. We meet for 8 Sundays, 8 weeks. We meet on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're a small group, and we are meeting it's a working group. We're working on practicing our pitches. We're able to read each other's pitches. We're able to see what works and what doesn't. We're going to be able to see our pitching practice grow over time. And that's really what it is that you want. That's how you get better from sitting down and actually practicing and putting in the work. I taught a class, a short 2-hour workshop in December with a group of women. I had 10 women. Um, what I did was I taught the 2-hour workshop and then I offered them an opportunity to give me a pitch. Just give me a pitch. And I work with them for the ones who did actually send in a pitch. I asked them to, um, to upgrade the pitch based on my edits. And I saw that I got such great um, pitches from them when they got the feedback from me. And so I thought it would be a really great opportunity to be able to work in a small group over 8 weeks. If they were able to do such great work and, in just a week of being able to put one pitch together, what would happen if you had 8 weeks? You can actually start, you would have your own pitching process that could take you out, could take you through the rest of 2026 and beyond. And you can create a writing career that will move you beyond what it is that you've ever even imagined, simply because you had 8 weeks of practice. Number one, with myself, working with you to be able to coach you um, into the magazines that you would like to be able to get into. But also to be able to have the encouragement of the other women in the group who are working hard, and you get to see each other's work and you get to learn from each other's questions. You get to learn from each other's mistakes. We're all out here making mistakes and trying to do better. And so it's going to be a really nice group, safe space for all of us to be able to work together. And I'm really excited about it. So I'll have the link to that at the top of the description box. Just go ahead and look and click on the link and look for Pitching Magazines with Confidence, an 8-week live group course. If you just want to stay connected to me, I also have a freebie. It's called 5 Successful Magazine Pitches. And that's exactly what it is. I give you pitches that were successful. I give you access. You can read the pitch, and then at the bottom of the pitch, I give a link where you can see the actual published article. That's also really great to have. So you get to be able to compare and contrast the difference between the pitch and the actual published article. And so I always like to be able to end my videos with the choosing moment. Um, so today's question, you can just think about this. You can ponder this if you'd like. You can pull out your journal if you would like to. But I would really like you to take today's content of the video and really think about how it is that you can use this in your real life. So, which writing habit is keeping me stuck right now? Which writing habit is keeping me stuck right now? And what is one small visible action I can take this week to interrupt it? And what is one small visible action I can take this week to interrupt it? And so that will also be in the description box for you to be able to ponder. Um, so yeah, so I thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you tomorrow in the video. Have a great day.